Cool.
All right, Josh, the floor is yours, right? Your album number 2?
Nope.
Matt is.
Or it's Matt. I'm sorry, you just did it. I
He's
apologize.
got a huge bio. Too.
Madonna.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
right,
was
'cause
looking
he's
at.
got to do Madonna. Holy cow.
I was looking
yeah.
at both of your.
Good luck.
I have the Wikipedia things up on both of your albums, and I'm like, man, a paragraph. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I don't use Wikipedia, so it's I don't know what it is.
well, I
so.
do, and I was just looking at the Madonna entries are substantial. So anyway, Madonna's Like a Prayer, and I'll run some numbers here. So it comes in at number 134 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 13 in 1989, number 876 of all time. It's Madonna's second highest rated album behind 1998's Ray of Light. It did make Rolling Stone's list, coming in at number 331, and it's the only album that we're covering tonight that made Rolling Stone's list. And
Wait, did you say this was the second highest rated after Ray of Light?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Ray of Light's number 1. The album that we covered before, her debut album, self-titled, is the third ranked album.
Yeah, Ray of Light is a really highly regarded album.
Yeah.
So
And we'll cover that in the next season of CTS, in a full episode.
it's interesting because it's like Madonna meets like all the electronic music I
Right.
talked about not listening to. So it'll be interesting for me. Yeah.
I remember the song. I just don't. I'm surprised because Like a Virgin and kind of 80s Madonna is.
Like a Virgin is number 5,
Okay.
and True Blue is
True
number
Blue
4.
is probably 4. I'm actually
really
kind of
like
shocked
it.
we didn't cover True Blue.
Yeah,
me
it's
too.
ranked True Blue is 226 in the 1980s, and I'll just spoil the. I think that's her best-selling album. Madonna sold
True
like
Blue.
over 21 million copies. Yeah.
Jeez.
And Madonna's ranked number 187 of overall artists on Best Ever Albums. And I guess I'm inverting this, but whatever. In the opening montage, you heard a clip from Express Yourself, and now you're going to hear a clip from Like a Prayer.
Just like a prayer, you know I'll take you there. Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home. Just like a prayer, your voice can take me there. Just like a muse to me, you are a mystery. Just like a dream, you are not what you seem. Just like a prayer, no choice, your voice can take me there.
And if Josh queued that up right, you just heard the best part of Like a Prayer, which in my opinion is the best Madonna song. So there you go.
Are you talking about when it drops
right
into
there.
the chorus or what?
And I'm talking about the bridge.
Oh, okay.
No,
Wait, so
Madonna's got
your
some good
favorite
bridges.
all-time Madonna song is Like a Prayer, huh?
Easily.
Huh. Okay. Not that I don't like it, but it does not pop that definitively for me compared to the rest, as it clearly does for you. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think about that. That might be an essential.
Close
question.
number 2. Close number 2.
Oh, I
Into
know
the
mine.
Groove.
Yeah. What's
Into the
yours?
Groove's
John?
a great one. What's my all-time favorite Madonna song?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough question. I have to think about that. I'll come back to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Josh, do you have an answer, or do you want to think about it too?
I think Material Girl is my favorite.
Okay.
Maybe Like a
Old
Virgin.
school.
I don't know. Yeah, I like the.
Josh
80s
likes the old
Madonna.
school. Old school.
I
Madonna.
like most of mine would be ballads. I'm gonna save that take till we talk about this album.
All right, so here we go. Let's run some information here. So this is Madonna's 4th album. It was recorded between September of 1988 and January of 1989. It was released on March 21st, 1989. So a little history on Madonna. She was born Madonna Louise Ciccone on August 16th, 1958 in Bay City, Michigan. John, have you ever been to Bay City, Michigan in your college years?
I have. In fact, one of my freshman year roommate was from Bay City, Michigan.
Oh.
So,
Anything cool about it you can tell us besides Madonna for being from there?
working class town, I'd say. Suburb, like many places, a suburb of Detroit.
Yeah.
It was, I guess the best way to describe Michigan is you have like what I call the white flight suburbs of Detroit, and then you have the ones that couldn't quite go all the way there, right? So they're more diverse, and Bay City's more in the second category.
Okay. So her parents, she was born named after her, Madonna, and her father, Silvio Anthony Ciccone. And I didn't know, I knew Madonna's mother died, but I didn't realize how young she died at. She passed away on December 1st, 1963 from breast cancer at the age of 30, and Madonna was only 5 years old at that
5 years
time,
old.
so-
Yep. I remember hearing that in the biography. Yeah.
Yep. So she was raised in those Detroit suburbs that John was talking about, and in 1966, her father, so just a couple years after the death of her mother, her father married the housekeeper, Joan Gustafson. That was not terribly happy about that. She was pretty resentful of him hitching up with the housekeeper. Madonna actually did pretty well in school. She wanted to kind of impress her father, so she really studied hard and got probably better grades than any other her siblings. She took dance lessons and eventually earned a dance scholarship to the University of Michigan. And 2 years later, in 1978, she dropped out of college and moved to New York. $35 in her pocket, and she somehow found an apartment and did secure work at a Dunkin' Donuts, as well as some working with some modern dance troupes. She also studied dance under famed dancer and choreographer Martha Graham, and worked as a backup dancer to some already established artists. She started dating a man named Dan Gilroy. This is actually a running theme with Madonna. She generally seems to, whoever she ends up working with, whatever male figure she works with, she ends up dating. So this happens quite often.
I mean, you can kind of see how it would happen. I mean, she's got a presence.
Just a tad, yeah.
Probably would be pretty overwhelming if you were around her all the time.
So she and this gentleman, Dan Gilroy, together formed a band called the Breakfast Club. So she was her first band, and she sang and played drums and guitar. In 1980, she left the band with a drummer and former boyfriend, Stephen Bray, to form another band called Emmy and the Emmys. And they became romantically involved again and wrote some songs together. But soon after this, Madonna decided to break off and just start to pursue a solo career. In March of 1990, signed a contract with Gotham Records, and she frequented some nightclubs to get DJs to play some of her demos. One DJ in particular, Mark Cammons, took a liking to her music, and they started dating. And Cammons arranged a meeting with Seymour Stein of Sire Records, who signed Madonna to a deal of 3 songs, with the potential to release an album later on. So this is when her debut single, Everybody, was released in October of 1982. And she also performed the song on her first television appearance in January of 1983. She also had her next song, Burning Up, was released in March of 83, and both of those singles reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot Dance Club song chart.
What's the song on the Vision Quest soundtrack that she sings and makes an appearance?
Live to Tell.
Oh, okay, that's a good song.
That might be my favorite Madonna song. As I was thinking about it, yeah.
That might be 3 for me, John, actually. So she has some success with those singles, and she Warner hired Reggie Lucas to produce her self-titled debut album. She was kind of displeased with how it was coming out, so she recruited another producer to help remix. This person's by the name of John Jellybean Benitez. Came in and remixed some of the songs and produced the song Holiday. And the album was released in July of 83 and peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Top 200, so it did pretty well right out of the bat. In the fall of 1983, her new manager, Freddie DeMann, secured a meeting with John Peters, who asked her to play a part in the upcoming film Vision Quest. So there you go, Josh. That was her first. So Madonna did a lot of acting, and this was her first acting gig. Yep. She gained more notoriety by performing on American Bandstand at Top of the Pops, and became an inspiration and fashion icon. So obviously Madonna's known for setting the trend of some of the fashion style of the time. It led young girls and women to follow her style, and the style was created by a style by the name of Maripole. That's just Maripole, like Madonna or Cher, just Maripole. And that look consisted of lace tops, skirts over capri pants, fishnet stockings, jewelry bearing the crucifix, bracelets, and bleached hair. So just the quintessential early 80s Madonna look. So she released her second album, which is Josh's favorite apparently, Like a Virgin, in November of 1984. And this became her first #1 album in many countries, including the U.S. and the United Kingdom. Became the first album by a female to sell over 5 million copies in the U.S., and it went on to sell over 21 million copies worldwide. The title track, so this is where Madonna starts to get some controversy, and she's pretty well known for a lot of controversial situations throughout her career. Was the first single. It topped the Hot 100 chart for 6 consecutive weeks, and it also attracted the attention of conservative organizations who complained that the song and its video promoted premarital sex and undermined family values, which was a big no-no for them. So they try to get the song and the video banned. She performed the song at the first MTV Video Music Awards in 1984, and later MTV called it one of the most iconic pop performances of all time. And actor Sean Penn, and they married on her birthday in 1985. So she continued her acting career by playing the title role of the 1985 film Desperately Seeking Susan, which yielded the hit Into the Groove, my second favorite Madonna song. So there you go.
That's on my watch list. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She embarked on her first tour at that time called the Virgin Tour with the Beastie Boys as the openers. I think we might have talked about that a little bit when we covered the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, the Beastie Boys have some good stories about that tour in the book. And Madonna.
I'm sure. Did they get along okay, Josh?
Yeah, they said that they got along well, and that they kind of, Madonna was kind of like, she was older than them at that point, by a certain amount, and they kind of viewed her as like she was already kind of like in this other tier and like kind of different like mode than they were at the time. And like they kind of viewed her as like an older girl that was just kind of like, way like classier and above them than they were. So
yeah, that probably would have been a fun show to see. And in June of 1986, she released her third album, True Blue, which had 5 #1 singles. Can you name all of them? John?
True Blue single. Well, you got the self-titled.
Yep.
You've got La Isla Bonita.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Papa Don't Preach.
Mm-hmm.
You have Material Girl.
Nope, that's on.
That's on a different one. Okay.
You had mentioned the song already.
Live to Tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's on there. That's right.
Yep.
And then
Open Your Heart.
Open Your Heart. Yes,
Yep.
that video with the little boy. I always remember dancing.
I wanted to be that little boy.
Yep. Yes.
So they all hit #1. So that was a pretty
she
pretty
has a lot of
massive
good
album.
singles.
Yeah, she sure does. It topped the charts in 28 different countries. It's her best-selling album with sales over 25 million. And in 1992 was listed as the best-selling album by a female artist of all time. It is now the 12th highest-selling album of all time by a female artist. So been eclipsed by like Celine Dion and Taylor Swift by like 5 times each or something. So she starred in the critically panned film Shanghai Surprise. Josh, have you seen that one?
No, but I know it by reputation.
Yeah. She received her first Golden Raspberry Award, the Razzie, for Worst Actress. And then in 1987, she starred in Who's That Girl? And shortly after that, she filed for divorce from Sean Penn in December of 1987, but she actually withdrew that petition a few weeks later. Then she went on to Broadway, so she's lots of acting here. She debuted in the production of Speed the Plow from May through August of 1988. And then she filed an assault report on Penn on New Year's Eve in 1988 and filed for divorce again, this time for real, on January 5th, 1989. She actually asked that no charges be filed and later said that Penn, even though there were rumors that Penn was physically abusive towards her, she denied that and said that never happened. So this was a pretty difficult time for Madonna. She was getting all the panned reviews of her movies and her impending divorce, the fact that she had just turned 30, which was the age of her mother when she died, and she, was reported that her Catholic upbringing, started to kind of intensify. The guilt that she associated with that, background was intensifying, even though it's been there with her entire life. And so she decides that she wants this album, her 4th album, to kind of be a little bit more of a mature record. She figured that she and her fans were both growing up, and she wanted to reach larger audiences by trying something different. She wanted to be more personal, and kind of started sifting through her various journal entries and writings from the past to create an album that dealt with various themes, including her relationship with Sean Penn, her family, her lost mother, and her belief in God. These thoughts and stuff that she was writing down, she never initially intended them to be put to music or put on her album, but she decided that that's what she wanted to do with them later on. and she viewed it as her most different work to date, and a coming-of-age record based more on her past musical influences than what was the trend of the time. For this record, she worked with a couple producers, Patrick Leonard and Stephen Bray, who she was with earlier. She was with Emmy and the Emmys, so he's making an appearance here. Prince also collaborated on this by producing and co-writing the third track on the record. And Patrick Leonard was also going through some personal turmoil, and he was Madonna's principal co-writer throughout this record. They generally kind of did the Traveling Wilburys thing, where they kind of just wrote a song in a day. So they were just kind of going through stuff pretty quickly. They didn't really change a whole lot. Once they got a song written down, they didn't have to go through too many revisions. I liked this story here. The packaging of the first pressings of the CD, cassette, and LP were scented with patchouli to simulate church incense. And also, this has been Madonna's idea was also to create a flavor of the 60s and from the church. So you get original pressings smelled like patchouli oil. In January of 1989, she signed a $5 million endorsement deal with Pepsi. And in the commercial, she debuted the song Like a Prayer. This was a 2-minute commercial. So this was how she was going to reveal her album to everybody. And Pepsi also sponsored her upcoming Blonde Ambition tour. The 2-minute commercial was entitled Make a Wish, and it portrayed Madonna going back in time to her childhood memories, and an estimated 250 million people around the world viewed the commercial. And then the next day, the video for Like a Prayer aired on MTV and was met with immediate
controversy.
Sex. They called for a ban on Pepsi, and eventually Pepsi had to cave, and they canceled their partnership with Madonna, though they did allow her to keep the $5 million that that's how badly they wanted to get her off of their brand. So definitely some controversy there, which we can get into. But I'm going to stop there. We're going to cover Madonna again, like I said, in the 90s when we cover Ray of Light. So I'll pick up that bio from there. There's plenty enough here to digest on as it is. So, John, I think you have the first take here. What do you think of Like a Prayer?
Yeah, this is it's just so fascinating to listen to Madonna's music, because she's like 4 different careers in the 80s, isn't she? She's like young New York, almost like street urchin Madonna, right, on the first one. No, it's what her vibe is, right?
Yeah.
She's hustling, she's getting it done in New York. She's pretty, but she hasn't gone into like full sex symbol yet.
And she wasn't shaving her armpits either at the time.
She's just like the person that you're like, boy, if she really, leaned into it a little bit, she could be really pretty, but she's also tough, because you have to be to make it in New York. So she's got that, and all those songs sort of feel like they just caught the moment, like Borderline and Lucky Star. It just feels like it's like her against the world. She's going for it. And then you've got like a Virgin, where she becomes a full-on pop star and definitely begins to, I guess what you'd call sex it up a little bit, right? Like there's a clear sexuality to that. I mean, you don't name an album Like a Virgin, right, without knowing exactly what you're doing. And the videos are much more overt and stuff, and the songs are bigger, and
MTV performance too is like iconic in that regard.
Yeah, in the wedding dress, and there's just an ambition that was always there on the first one, but now her ambition's not just to have a single, right? It's to now be a huge pop star. And then you've got True Blue Madonna, where she's leaning into like the movie star full, like she's almost like how all the pop stars now talk about themselves as a brand now, but Madonna kind of was like the proto of that she was going full brand, right? Like movies, albums, the art part of it. She's signing endorsement deals, so she's got Madonna as brand. She also at that point was getting very eclectic with her. She always has brought in elements of different music, but in that she was very deliberate about bringing in like Spanish themes and stuff like that. And then this is sort of like, I feel, Madonna's like concept album, right? Like this is Blonde Ambition Madonna. This is like Madonna as established brand. It's a sexy album, but she's also talking about weighty issues on this, right? Like her lyricism is much heavier. I didn't forget, but my gosh, the song "Oh Father" is one of like the few songs when it catches me and I forget that it's a song that can bring a tear to my eye. I feel it is the closest you ever get to getting to know Madonna on any song she ever made. It's so deeply personal. It's so clearly about her father. The way she sings it with her voice breaking kind of is the perfect way to sing it. It's a beautiful song lyrically. And then how it talks about, like, it could be a little girl, then you realize it's her, but it's also universal. And then at the end, how she gives, like, absolution to her father. I think she says something like, it's okay, somebody hurt you too and stuff. It's like, damn, the child's, it is a song that actually can make me kind of tear up a little bit. That's how strong that song is. And it was just, I was listening to the album, one of the times I listened to it while doing it, and that song just came on, and by like the minute and a half mark, I was like, holy shit, this song like really is hitting me for some reason right now. I just wasn't prepared for it. So that's one of my favorite Madonna songs. Madonna as a ballad singer is just incredible. I mean, whether it be This Used to Be My Playground or Take a Bow or You'll See is a song from the 90s I love, but also Live to Tell,
I'll Remember from the...
I'll Remember. Yeah, there's just so many great... In some ways, if Madonna had just done ballads, she'd be an icon, and that's not even taking in the rest. Like a Prayer, like you mentioned, Matt, it's an incredible song. It's a gospel song, at Madonna singing it. I mean, it's very much, if you took gospel and made it also pop along the way. It's a very well constructed song. It unfolds in different layers along the way. It's got the incredible video.
The video is crazy.
With the dark-haired Madonna, and it's got the dark-haired Madonna. It's got the religious imagery. It's got in the 1989 era, like the interracial. Not only an interracial relationship, but also like clearly depicting like Jesus as black. Like there's this the burning crosses.
The social commentary.
Also Madonna like being like overtly religious, but then also cutting to her like in full buxom mode. Which everything, by the way, is done on purpose here, which is what I love about Madonna. Like she's back. She was a dancer. She's an artist, right? So she's well aware of how all these things are gonna hit, right? And her choice of outfit is particularly funny because it's like she went for fullest in bloom female to juxtapose the religious imagery, right? And I texted you guys this week. I'm like, this might be the best Madonna video album because Cherish is a really sexy video in an understated way. It's just basically like Madonna on a beach, but it just works. I don't know how, she's in like a 1920s swimsuit too, so it's not like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just
she
just
looks
has
really good in that video.
It's perfectly shot. It's very artistic. It's in the way that a lot of black and white videos of the time, where I think of like Wicked Game by like Chris Isaac, right, was another black and white stylistic video. I mean, she's just effortlessly like sexy in that video in a different way than she's sexy in, Express Yourself is a huge video, right? Is that a Mark Romanek video, I think, Express Yourself?
That is, I want to say that's David Fincher.
Is that David Fincher? Yeah,
it's David Fincher. At the time, it cost $5 million to make, making it the most expensive video ever until Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson did Scream, which was like $12 million. So
I think there were a couple music video people like David Fincher, Mark Romanek. There were just these people in that era that like you could Stefan. I always forget it starts with the S. He's like a French. He did a bunch of videos that were very noticeable, and then later as the decade, the mid 90s comes, you get other ones that come in like, Hype Williams, right, with the fisheye lenses, and Spike Jones and all these different people. But you forget that Mark Pellington was another guy that used to make a lot of videos. I think he made like Jeremy famously and stuff like that. But those are incredible videos. They solidify Madonna as both a pop star, and then you got the live performance, right? That's the other piece of Madonna. She's a huge star. This album did have some filler, especially the last couple tracks. That's why it doesn't rise quite to the level of my favorite pop albums, because what stood out about my favorite pop albums, like Thriller and Rhythm Nation 1814 and to some degree 1999 by Prince, is just the absolute lack of any filler in them. It's like all killer, no filler, right, along the way. And so that's the only thing that holds it back. But boy, these singles and the variety, and it kind of works as an artistic statement for Madonna too. It's sort of vaguely about, you could tell lyrically, thematically, it's about what Matt talked about as one of the themes, like Madonna, ambition, icon, sexuality mixed with like, I was raised like a blue collar Catholic girl, right? And
Yeah.
you know, she's talking more personally than she might have in other sketches. There's not a lot of winking and nodding like there was in earlier Madonna albums, or sort of frivolity. This is a very serious album for her. Even the singles are serious, right? Like Express Yourself is a serious song. Like a Prayer is a relatively serious love song. Oh Father's about serious stuff. Cherish is probably the only one that kind of goes into some of what she was going in True Blue, right? Where it's sort of a throwback to like that 50s, 60s girl group type feel along the way, and like a love song. But yeah, this one gets a thumbs up for me. And it's another thing. I don't know if people in the modern context quite appreciate how big Madonna was. I think it's been appropriated as, oh, she was big, but there's other people in like today, like Taylor Swift and like Beyonce, right? Come to mind immediately, Rihanna, that did it. But I don't know if it's generational or if it's just you have to understand them to understand Madonna. But Madonna seemed to operate on like a plane bigger than even the biggest of the female pop stars in some way. The only person I could really compare in my lifetime, female, as being as big as her to me was probably Beyonce and Mariah Carey, probably are the other two that I would say. Even like Rihanna and Taylor Swift don't quite rise to the level to me of omnipresence that Madonna had as a female pop star. I don't know where you guys stand on that, but
well, yeah, Madonna seemed to impact the culture in terms of
Yeah.
even like girls dressing like her as a result. Like, I don't know if that's happening nowadays, like making a fashion statement. I mean, yeah, that Rihanna has a fashion line or, label, but the way she dresses is that causing people to
and I
dress
compare
like
her.
Rihanna?
I said this back then. I compare her to David Bowie in that for like 20 years, she just always figured out what the next thing was and was able to like get into it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't. Now later, she kind of got criticized, right, in the 2000, like when she kind of lost the ability to be ahead of it, or it seemed like she was latching on to it as opposed to being at the avant-garde front of it. But from about 1983 till about 2000, right, she was sort of always, she sort of had the zeitgeist a little bit in the way that I always said, like David Bowie of the 70s and early 80s just seemed to always kind of figure it out. Like where the culture was going. And sometimes she led people there, like Vogue, which we didn't even cover here, right? Like she basically brought the gay subculture to like a song that could sell like 12 million units, which like I guess nowadays where it's more accepted, right, that like elements of gay culture have seeped into the mainstream. But like in 1990, are you kidding? Like no way that wasn't happening then. So that's an example I think of, yeah, and some of the stuff she does, you don't even recognize it as being as transcendent as it is because people have taken elements of it along the way to the point where it seems like it's always been done when it didn't. So yeah, this gets a strong thumbs up for me.
Yeah, strong thumbs up for me too. I must have listened to this at some point, but I forgot all of it or the order or some of the songs that were on here. It's such a kind of strong eclectic album while also feeling personal, which is what you guys brought up. I definitely heard that and felt that when talking about the religion and relationships and her past childhood, like that stuff kind of I felt the weight of that on these songs despite them being extremely catchy for the most part. I watched all the videos, John, after you said after you mentioned that on all the singles, so that was beneficial as well. But this, I mean, it's just a testament to how either great her songwriting is or the fact that she can craft a pop song, because with the 1-2 punch of Like a Prayer and Express Yourself in the opening of the album, that's such a statement to what you're about to get into, and like kind of where she's at, and the fact that both of those songs are huge and the videos are huge, and it's just she's kind of, you know, peak Madonna in this form here. I really liked and enjoyed discovering kind of the deeper cuts on this album that I didn't remember or know, like Love Song, which I knew right away was a Prince song. It just has that Prince sound. It's kind of so offbeat and off kilter. It's kind of got this weird tempo or cadence to it with both of them singing on it. I enjoyed that. Till Death Do Us Part has this kind of like almost like new wave beat, which is really interesting, and was another kind of upbeat fun song. Cherish, which I had forgotten, was great, and I loved listening to that. That was a classic, and I agree. I thought of that as more of like a throwback to her earlier time period. It sounded like that. Dear Jessie was the one song that was like really infectious to me and sneaky in terms of its wording and kind of beat. It's kind of like childlike in a way, and it's got kind of almost like a waltz beat to it, but it's and the lyrics are kind of nonsensical intentionally, like in a playful, fantastical sort of way. But that was the song that was like, oh, there's more than just the hit. I mean, this was a single also, to be fair, but not one that I knew. And then, yeah, it tails off towards the end. The Keep It Together is kind of funky. Pray for Spanish Eyes was just kind of a weird, I mean, there's Spanish guitar in it, but it's kind of a weird one. And then the whole like Act of Contrition was like, sounded experimental in some ways almost. But yeah, this is strong. If I wished in some ways we had talked about those kind of True Blue and Like a Virgin to kind of get the whole 80s Madonna period, but this is a really great representation of who she is as an artist. I really enjoyed listening to the album, and I just really enjoyed the variety and kind of her expression. She comes through on every track on this song and has so many like kind of different facets to herself that she brings to it that I really enjoyed. And just in addition with the kind of biographical elements and more personal elements that she brings to it. So I think that takes it up another level too. So thumbs up for me for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised by this album because I didn't know it. I knew the three main singles, Like a Prayer, Express Yourself, and Cherish. And I actually owned True Blue. That was I think I told Bob from Expended Scoop, that was the first album I remember buying with my own money, was actually True Blue. So I've known that album for a while, and I was just this, even before I started working on the bio, I'm like, man, this is a different Madonna. This is just, you know, way more introspective, less, because True Blue is a lot of like bubblegum pop kind of stuff, you know, very, I mean, there's some serious elements to that for sure. Like, you know, Papa Don't Preach and Live to Tell, there's serious undertones there, but as a sound sonically, especially like some of the, you know, the non-single tracks on that are very kind of like, you know, Jimmy, Jimmy, Love Makes the World Go Round, these very like almost over the top bubblegum pop stuff, right? Whereas the deep cuts here are kind of like these ballads that are really serious.
Wasn't like True Blue her love letter to the music she grew up loving? I think that's kind of like the theme of that. Yeah,
it was that. It was also Sean. It was an album dedicated to Sean Penn. The True Blue was was something that he would say a lot. So that was like a dedication to him, and that's when I guess their relationship was in a good place. So a lot of the songs came out of that. So when I got to this and I knew, like a Prayer and Express Yourself, bam, bam, like just great bangers, right? And then the Prince song, like, okay, that's interesting. It's certainly a Prince song, right? Like you were saying. And it just never really, I mean, well, except with Cherish, right? Those three songs kind of, you know, are all kind of rolled into one as being like the major pop songs. But everything else is kind of like this interesting, different, divergent direction that she's going in. And like the whole thing of the father. John, you didn't even mention the video. You talked about videos, because I didn't know that was a single. So you watched the video.
It's a fantastic video.
And that video even drives home the sadness and the, you know, even more. You got the dad like screaming at the little girl and whatever, and it's just like it's this terrible image that's happening. And that's a really powerful song.
Another beautifully shot video, I'd like to point out.
When she would in the tour that she went out, I think it was Blonde Ambition tour, after the release of this album, she would play Live to Tell and Oh Father back to back, and she kind of viewed them as volume 1, volume 2, like of the same kind of song. So because I think Live to Tell has to do with domestic abuse, right? So it's very powerful, and I liked I don't think this really tails off to me at the Act of Contrition, maybe the only song, but that's not even a real song. It's kind of like a hodgepodge of callbacks from like a Prayer and some. It's almost it's like experimental. It's just tape loops and and stuff that's kind of getting thrown together a little bit like a 2-minute Revolution 9 kind of a thing, But I like Keep It Together. I thought that was the upbeat funk. Some of the songs on here, I think Express Yourself and Keep It Together are tributes that she said to Sly and the Family Stone, trying to get more of a funk element into the music. I thought Spanish Eyes was a good song. I like her voice on that. And Dear Jessie, it's funny you bring that up because I was listening. I'm like, man, that's a really that one kind of stands out as being maybe the most different because it's a lot of like strings. It's like a 4-piece string arrangement. And then I read later on that people have called that song kind of like more of like a Beatles song. Kind of like a Beatlesque, like a George Martin scoring like the string part, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm like, I could kind of hear that type of sound in like a mid-later era Beatles type song. So very interesting album, and I felt like I did like it the more that it went on. I was just surprised by how kind of a lot of ballads, right? I thought it was going to be more bangers than ballads, and I think it's kind of equal measure. I would even maybe even there's more ballads than bangers on this, but everything you said, John, about her being like the trendsetter, the David Bowie for sure. I mean, the movies that she was in, even though some of them didn't do too well, but she's just getting started, right? Because the movies that she did later on, I mean, she got with Evita, she got the Oscar nod.
Dick Tracy,
League of Their Own, Dick Tracy, and then she did like, we'll cover more of that, but then she did like the Basic Instinct ripoff that was with Willem Dafoe there, so she had her racy. And,
I forgot about that. Yeah,
like the Body of Evidence, I think that's what it was called. So, so she's just with between the music, the dancing, the videos for sure. She's like, she's up there with like Michael Jackson and some of those other artists of the 80s that just were.
We didn't mention Till Death Do Us Part, which is like the best type of late 80s song you can make. It sounds like a late 80s song, but it's the best animal of that type of song. I was like, this is pretty much the best type of song you could have from that late 80s production possible.
I really
and some
liked
of it. It just was a really cool sonic palette, and her voice like kind of did the waterfall effect in it, which I really liked quite a bit. So
that's her. Shout that one out. That's the divorce song.
John David Fincher directed that Oh Father video also.
Okay, he did that one too. Okay,
yeah, he worked with her a couple of times.
It's a beautiful video. It really it enhances the song. Not that I feel like you need to be led too much on that song. It's pretty straightforward, but it really does give the imagery with it. Yeah. No,
and then like Promise to Try, like just pretty ballad, like melodically, just like a very pretty song, And it's also interesting that Madonna and I think it was Patrick Leonard that she wrote most of these songs with. It's like it almost seemed like it was an effortless kind of thing. They were just so in sync with each other, with the point in their lives that they were and. Actually, Dear Jessie, I think, was an idea that came from Leonard. That was, Jessie, I believe, was his daughter, and so it's kind of like an homage to her. And Madonna met the daughter and kind of like ran with that idea a little bit too. So yeah, really, really solid album. Certainly a step forward. I mean, if you guys ever listen to True Blue, this is Madonna maturing for sure, and really kind of making something a lot more personal, which with some of the sadder moments and elements of her life. So and that comes across, but it also, but then you've got Like a Prayer, which is just I still when she's building up that the gospel chorus,
that's awesome.
And that bass breakdown that just like kind of gets into the more serious. There's a lot of things happening musically in that song that are just fantastic, and it never gets old. It's absolutely my favorite Madonna song, and it hits me every time. And thumbs up. Really good record.
I will agree with you on one part. Perhaps the best moment of any Madonna song. I don't know if I'd go so far as say it's the best for me personally. The best is that part when she drops almost spoken word, that like home, and then it goes into like the gospel choir. You know what I'm talking about? Like that bridge where she said, life is a mystery, and she builds
that's
up,
what I'm talking
and then
about.
it's like, and it feels like home, and she just says it as spoken word, and then boom, it goes to the next part. Yeah,
no, that's the part that I had, Josh, because normally I tell Josh,
almost like
just
the
put
bass
this song
dropping
on there.
Yeah.
No, that's what. Yeah, and I just put this song on there. But for that one, I was like, I want this particular part because that they start breaking down the bass line and stuff like that in the production. But it's just the whole thing, and and lyrically, that's what they said. I think the producer was initially scared because he's like, oh, you're both talking about religion and your relationship with God, but also like sex. Right, and I don't like you're down on your knees, and it's like this double entendre. Don't do like it's too scary, And she's like, no.
They clearly have not read a lot of literature, because you could bankroll a small country for the amount of Catholics who have also written about sex in various ways. So yeah.
So it sounds like 3 pretty strong thumbs up for Madonna.
Yeah, this one gets thumbs up for me.
Yeah, and we'll cover. It'll be a while. It'll probably be 2 years before we get to Ray of Light, but we'll get there. So
yeah, that's 98, I think, if I remember.
There's a lot of albums we're covering in the 90s. I was looking at the spreadsheet, so yeah.